Good evening, everyone. I'm your host, comedian, magician, Danny Whitson. But it's all tricks aside, because tonight we're turning the paranormal into the normal. Join me as we explore the gray areas of reality. We're going to talk all things paranormal, UFOs, ghosts, cryptids, and aliens, and see how it's all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencer Support Association, and we are live. So if you're an experiencer yourself, or you're just plain nosy, be sure to send me your question and subscribe to the podcast. Now, get ready, because it's going to get deep. No, really, we're going to go way out there, because this is Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. All right, what's happening, my paranormal junkies? This is Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, and I'm your host, Danny Whitson. This is my first episode ever, so I'm super excited. I'm so glad for you guys to be tuning in, because tonight we have an amazing guest. Not only is he amazing, but he's the founder of the Tesla Network and also a very popular UFO investigator, Ryan Stacey. Let's hear it for Ryan. Come on, Ryan. How you doing, man?
Man, I am good. It's so good to be back, and it's weird, but I'm in the other seat.
This is awkward because this is your baby.
It is my baby. Handle it with care, please. My paranormal. What'd you say? Junkies.
Yeah, paranormal junkies. Okay, that's what I have become ever since I interviewed you a few years ago on my old podcast, The Abracadam. And ever since then, I have been hooked on UFOs. I've always been interested in ghosts, but you got my mind open and thinking. So I tell you what, now I know a lot of the guests know who you are, but some of the guests may be tuning in for the first time for this episode. So if you don't mind, go ahead and let them know a little bit about your background.
Okay, so my name is Ryan Stacey. I am the former National Chief Investigator for MUFON Canada. I am the former Director of Field Investigating Training for MUFON National. I am a private investigator. I own and operate my own private investigating company. I've been involved with the UFO phenomenon since 2018, I believe, no, 15. And I've done a lot of stuff over the years. I've created the Experiencer Support Association as a response to all the problems that I saw within MUFON and everything else that's still happening. And I've done extensive research, declassified documents. I've assisted people behind the scenes the last few years. I've been solely responsible for stirring the pot intentionally to get certain things to fall apart. Those contracts have ended. Those tasks have been I've removed myself from assisting these people. I'm a free agent again. And I feel good because, I kind of fucked a lot of people up. And now that everything's out in the open and, I'm just ready to do what I do best and continue to spoil things. And that is courtesy of you taking over this podcast, because this podcast, although is my baby, Cece has helped me in the past. In the background, and now Chris, this podcast has evolved. This is not just my baby, it's a baby for a lot of people, but by freeing me up, I can get into the investigations. I can get into the research. I can get into all these other things that I promised that I would do for the people. And Tessa is for you and for everybody else that is listening, but I can't do them both well. And now that I don't have to be the host anymore.
Well, here's the wonderful thing about you. The wonderful thing about you is whenever I was first, looking into UFOs, and a lot of people who are not part of the world and haven't, been exposed to what is really going on, a lot of people have a tendency to think, oh, they're crazy. Those people are weird, but meeting you, seeing somebody who takes these things serious in the way you thoroughly investigate everything that comes across your table there. You just don't believe something because it's fun to believe in. No, you look for the facts, you break things down. And I mean, just like I believe we talked about a UFO that a picture you had a UFO and you showed how high it was versus the trees. This is how the size of this object, what it has to be. You really do your research. And which I respect that because, I approach a lot of things as a skeptic a lot of times. And now I am a hardcore believer. I tell people, I was like, I know this sounds batshit crazy, guys, but this is real. And all because of you. Now, let me ask you real quick, because you have been involved in a lot of things. MUFON, I mean, you've been everywhere. And you're a private investigator. What got you, though, interested in the UFOology and the paranormal research of things?
Well, so paranormal is my roots. I've always been into ghosts and magic and things like that. Only recently have I started to explore it, or I guess be open about it. I've had experience, with which helped create Tessa, and then now I've kind of been doing some intense personal work. And now that I'm in a good place now where I'm being open about it. But the UFO mess came in because someone had purchased a manual from MUFON, but didn't get it. And then I saw some social posts about crime, alleged crime and thieves and stuff like that. And I bought into it because I just started my private investigating company. And then I was helping to determine where that book had come from and solve that problem. And then I got introduced to MUFON and blah, blah, blah. And then I had to talk to the Canadian rep, and the Canadian rep talked about my experience, asked me if I would join. And I just said, well, I got nothing to do, so might as well. And then I joined. And then,
so the paranormal was an interest first. Before, I mean, you weren't like a diehard fan of Columbo, by the way. I am. One more thing. But I mean, or you just a nosy bastard? The PI work.
But it's more of a Magnum PI guy,
a Magnum PI. We're gonna go with a good-looking dude. But those are skills that are very helpful in what you do. You're able to really not just take some crazy story, like I said, because it's fun to believe, but you really get down to the facts and the nicks and crannies of the whole thing. Now, something that I wondered, I don't even think I asked you this the first time I ever interviewed you, but did you have a paranormal or UFO experience? Because one thing I love to hear people's stories. I love to hear their experiences.
So I've had a few, so there's different stages in my development here. So what I think now is not what I thought then, but back in the day, I did experience what I thought was, I guess, paranormal activity, in the sense of I would hear voices thinking that people were talking to me, and I go into the room and they weren't there, and then I'd see them show up, walk through the front door, and I'd be like, I know I heard it plain and day. I've heard objects turn and fall and make noise, but no one in the room, weird things like that. And I'm always thinking ghost, paranormal, all this other stuff. And then as I got into the investigative policing kind of type world, I also served in the Army too. So there's a lot of militant type of stuff that I've been kind of going with. But that led me to the nuts and bolts. Everything has to be explained and blah, blah, blah. And UFOs are just machines and government stuff and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. But then I would get into the experiencer part where they would talk about abductions and these entities. And I started seeing what appeared to be, paranormal kind of overlap. What could be a shadow figure, could be an extraterrestrial, or it could be technology and all these other things and what have you. And then fast forward through the MUFON stuff, because that was like the issue, is because it was all paranormal, but they wanted to stay away from the word paranormal, which simply just means
it's always, the first time you told me that, dude, I literally, it was hilarious, because I pictured the UFO guy showing up to the UFO cafeteria tables like, guys, I got to tell you about ghosts. And they're like, get this guy the hell out of here. He's crazy. So
look at me now. So then I had my experience though. And I had my experience in 2018, winter solstice, which, rocked my world. And I just recently wrote an article about it. After 4 years of studying it and trying to understand what this message may have meant. And I put some conclusions together. So this experience was more so a psychogenic, like a mental experience where I seen an image, which is the Tesla symbol. I was obsessed with it. I couldn't figure out what it meant. I just had to draw it. I had to put it out there. And then with it, I was just like putting it out there. And then I started meeting people, and then other people gravitated towards it. Some people came for a reason, season, lifetime, all those types of things have happened gravitating around this symbol. And then I studied the esoteric meanings in it. I evolved in a few degrees in masonry and things like that since then. So I've started to learn to put these pieces together, that this real complex artwork has come from a higher power, whether that is my higher consciousness or extraterrestrial or another dimension in time. And all this stuff that I'm talking about right now, I had no fucking clue what that was when I was working with MUFON. I could not comprehend the fourth dimension for the life of me. And this thing helped me understand that. Also, through talking to other people, Stacey as well, when she was running the podcast or helping with the podcast, mind you, she opened my mind to a lot of things. And since then, I've seen some connections. A lot of things have happened. So it's like I'm all over the map. But now I'm not batshit crazy. I'm like batshit like ready, I would say.
Well, okay,
and
so
I'm comfortable with what
let me slow down.
Yeah.
Let me slow down just for a second here, okay? Just for a second. So because like I said, the people who are following Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, awesome. Thank you. You're familiar probably with a lot of these terms, the paranormal UFO community. Newbies, though, on the other hand, are like, what the hell's he talking about? So,
and my wife helped me through a lot of stuff. There is a lot of crap that I had to process and let go. And this ego of mine too, I had to fight that like a son of a bitch to accept that in the science world that this stuff does exist. And I've proven it to myself and I know it. But the hard part now is proving it to everybody else because they only believe what they want to believe.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. First of all, I want to go back to something very interesting that you said at first. Okay. Now, you said that you saw the Tessa image. So, what happened? What'd you do? Did you walk in the room, see it? Did you see it on a burnt piece of toast? Where did you see the Tessa image?
It was in my mind. Like I could see it like a movie playing in my mind. I had this ice pick headache. It was pounding. I couldn't stop seeing it until I drew it. And then when I drew it, I don't remember the creation of it. So like I remember starting it, I remember finishing it. In between, maybe I was cognitive of that. I don't know. It's too long ago. But the way that everything lined up afterwards had these synchronicities with colors, with symbols, with religions, with different theories, dimensions. And I know that my primitive brain back then did not know what any of that stuff was. But as other people in the community saw it, introduced me to things that they already knew, and then I did a fact check and trust but verify kind of scenario on everything. Then I started to get a little paranoid because it's like, how did my brain comprehend all of this? Forget extraterrestrials. I'm mentally ill. I'm in a form of trauma because I'm leaving MUFON. I assisted in putting Jan Harzan in jail. Everybody hates me. It was a dark time. A fun fact, but nobody knew that.
So here, hold on. I don't know who Jan is, but you put Jan in jail.
I did not. I assisted.
You assisted. Jan, I'm assuming Jan did some bad stuff. So
the head of MUFON at the time.
Okay.
He's probably on Epstein's list. Let's just say that.
He's on Epstein's list, Jan.
I don't know. So. Anyways, a lot of shit has changed. But the thing is I got to be honest, as an experiencer, experiencing all these other things, I have challenged my mental health. I've been depressed. I've been angry. I've been sad. I've gone through all of it. I've been in therapy, honestly, to deal with PTSD from my army. And all in doing that, I'm thinking this paranormal experience that I'm having, is just a result of, my brain being broken at that point. And then I've been rehabilitated. Things like that have happened. And I'm almost, done everything that I'm supposed to do. But part of that was also releasing all these triggers that stressed me. But by doing that, releasing those superficial things, I became more faithful. I became more spiritual. I started to listening. I'm more in tuned. I can feel this energy. I started trusting it. And before, I used to repel it because I'm like, not me. These guys are weird. I'm not weird. Not me. But now it's like, okay, yes, me. I am, a part of this. But what part of this do I play, and what part of that, and how does that help? And that's where Tessa comes in, because I still need to study. But when I was studying other people, I didn't really realize that I was looking for more people like myself, which is what majority of all these investigators are doing, is they're trying to find more things to relate about because they've had these experiences. And my experiences in particular don't involve extraterrestrial beings or UFO crafts, but that doesn't mean I don't believe it possible. What I've learned is that there is another space where this information is shared, where it's coming from. I do understand the science where we're at antennas and we can receive energy. We can receive information. We could do telepathy or telekinesis. I am understanding that that's possible. Where that's coming from, I'm having I'm very certain, or I'll say a high probability, that we are responsible for. We are super beings. We are capable of doing it. It's not paranormal. It's not extraterrestrial. It's us. We are the extraterrestrials. We are the beings. We are the ones that are doing this, but there's suppression. So when I'm doing the disclosure stuff, learning and going through this therapy trauma and all this other stuff, childhood stuff too, just trying to make sense. And I anchor in on this experience thinking, what is this all about? And then anyways, I'm just kind of all over the place.
Well, I remember when I had you on, as a guest.
Yeah.
Because I'd always I've had my own personal paranormal ghost experiences, if that's what you want to call them. If that's what it was, I don't know. So I've always had that belief in my mind. Had never had a UFO type experience until recently. So I was always on the fence with that. 100% didn't believe Bigfoot at all. I always talk about the big three. That's the big three: ghosts, aliens, and Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. And then when I talked to you, you had brought into this theory that everything was connected in a way. And it wasn't until, I did a little research on my own, some thinking on my own, some putting some this and that together. And now I'm on board with that theory because how little we actually know about consciousness, how it works, in the spiritual world that does exist. Before I wasn't a really big believer of that. I was logic, rationality, this, if it's not this in this world, it's not real. And now that's not the case at all with me. And like I said, after talking with you, it really opened my mind and made me do some real research on my own. Okay. And, kind of figured some things out. Now, I think the more questions you look for answers for, the more questions you get, unfortunately. That's kind of how things work like that. Mm-hmm. But with you, when did you realize? And like I said, a lot of people don't like mixing their potatoes and their peas. You know what I mean? They want to keep their ghost over here. They want to keep UFOs over here. But here's the thing. I think there's something going on here where it's all connected. I think I don't know exactly.
It has to be connected, and I believe it.
Going on where it's all connected.
Yeah. So I believe.
When did you realize? When did that start to become a thought for you?
Well, I saw the parallel with MUFON when I got into the experiencer cases, the nuts and bolts UFO stuff. I dismissed that as government machines a long time ago. I still think this UFO disclosure thing is just a ruse to cover up and blah blah blah. Like none of that. That's not what's really going on. But the people are affected by it. And then when I had my experience and I got this map and I started looking at the symbols and the icons and the alchemy and the certain working tools for masonry on there too that send a message that says to pursue the hidden mysteries of nature and science. And with that, I looked at the Hynek and Vallée classification system, and I created my own classification system, which is called the Ultra Spectrum classification system, where I was able to actually show that it's possible that these things are connected by removing labels. So a UFO is simply aerial activity. It's called an unidentified flying object to you because you don't know what it is. But the government might know what it is. But they may not tell us what it is, but we can agree that it's something in the sky and it's there. It's real. It's in the sky. It may not be normal to us, but it could be normal to someone. At the same time, allowing the paranormal community to look at these spirit orbs, which are also, to make them cringe, could be dust orbs, could be bugs, could be all those things. But it's still aerial activity. So instead of calling it paranormal, meaning it's not normal, it's just accepting the possibility that, both schools of thought here is that we're working with some sort of light that is in the sky, and we classify that as aerial activity. With beings, I call them beings observed, entities. So instead of putting a label on it, we have a tall, dark type figure that is standing in the bedroom. We don't call him a hat man just because he's wearing a hat. It could be the Men in Black. Might not even be wearing a hat. It could be a beacon, just don't see the top of his head. Then you have these Pleiadians. That's a label that is specific to where they're coming from a star system, but you don't know for a fact that they came from that star system. For all we know, they came from the closet. Or they're up north, they're Scandinavian, they're Vikings, who knows? So there's a lot of judgment and there's a lot of labels on these things. So what I did is I built this system to break it all down so you can understand that it is connected. And what connects it is us. We are able to see it. We are able to see it in my mind. So just and to help validate some of these experiences that happen when a lot of people, like when I worked with MUFON, a lot of people wouldn't have any evidence. And MUFON's protocol was just no evidence, we don't care. Why? Because they want to make money off of it. They want to profit off of it. It's not credible if it comes from their mind. Well, analogical evidence is drawings. You can draw it. And when you draw it and you work with it and you have 100 people from different places drawing the same thing and you get one person to take a picture and all these drawings match, well, then there's some circumstantial evidence there. But the reason that people aren't able to take photographs, I started to think because of my own experience that maybe they thought it was happening in the three-dimensional world when it actually wasn't. So they saw it in the fourth or fifth dimension, however they want to do it, plain as day. And that's why the person beside them couldn't see it. They pulled up their phone, they took a picture, they missed it, it wasn't there. And when you add consciousness to that in that investigative level, that connects us because we're getting the information from the same place, which I call the ultra spectrum.
Now, I gotta say, let me say this real quick. Okay, I'm with you 100%, 100%. Okay. I had this conversation with a friend the other day when we were talking about, like with the alien abductions. Okay, first of all, it's a little weird that everybody sees the same thing. A lot of people experience the same thing, that the same type of beings when this happens. Now, medical science will tell you that these people are more than likely experiencing sleep paralysis, which is very real, happens to people. It's a horrible experience. And okay, now here's the thing. 100%, I agree. That is what is happening in one realm of reality. But in another reality, in their mind, there's two things that these people experience. Number one, it's alien abduction. And number two, Sometimes it's a demon sitting on their chest. Okay. Why are these people experiencing the same exact experiences during this sleep paralysis? Okay. So it makes me wonder if in the physical world, yes, it can be explained by, well, the brain is trying to wake up, but the body is still paralyzed from dreaming. The reason why you're paralyzed during dreaming, so you don't act out your dreams. Yes, that's fact, medical fact, yes. But in the other reality, this other dimension, this other consciousness that we have, they're experiencing something completely different, which doesn't make it not real. So I find that very interesting that all these people who do suffer, who've had this experience very similar things.
But it was real for them. And
absolutely. It was real. It was real.
And I do believe that we are experiencing something. I am a skeptical believer. I cannot go back to say that there is not some external force, even if it's consciousness, just my higher self. That is still a new realm that I'm exploring that makes it me as an individual human being, a more powerful human being than I thought. How's that for fighting freaking ego? So I had to, so believing it, then, the other part of the battle is this truth. Truth for whom, and truth, there's personal truths and then there's, global truths. A lot of people in this fight, I would say, for disclosure, are trying to get validation for all of it. Does the government cover up everything? Maybe not everything, maybe a lot of things, but not all of it. And, is all of what they're hiding extraterrestrial? Or is it government, or a combination of everything? Everything is like a melting pot, if you will. And all these things are happening, but because they had their own personal experience that can't be explained, when they get all these things and these different thoughts and the media and Ella Dongo and all those other cheap messiahs out there putting out these false narratives, it creates that fear because they know something has happened to them. And it could also very well be past life, or it could be current life traumas that they haven't dealt with either. Some people that are, I guess I'm all over the map. I haven't done this in a while. But the hard part is that validation. The experiencers want to know that they're not alone, they also should take heed of the information that they get and do their own research, because just if I were to put a label on it, which is improper, it changes your faith, it changes your belief system, and all these other things. So you got to kind of do your own research and figure out what it is for yourself and accept all these possibilities and still look into it. I don't know, it's all a mess. But if you're trying to prove it for yourself, that's where I'm taking a page on my own book, because this year I've been focused on unity, bringing everything together and focusing on myself becoming one. Next year's contact, and that's part of a 5-year business plan that came with the Tessa map vision. As I'm trying to realize that I got enough truth for myself. I don't have to prove to everyone that the shape of the earth is questionable. We'll put it that way. What shape it is, how that is, and why that's relevant, I don't need to do those fights anymore. I did those fights because I needed to test them. I needed to verify that the information that I was given or that I received from whatever way that happened was accurate.
Hold on one second, Ryan. Now, hold on.
Yeah.
You're jumping to another debatable topic.
So beyond the tinfoil hat, baby.
Now, here's the thing. I agree with a lot that you say. I agree with a lot. I don't know if I'm on, are you saying that the flat earth, are you jumping on flat earth?
I didn't say flat earth. You did. I said the shape of the earth is questionable. It used to be a globe. Now they're saying it's pear-shaped. And then they're saying it's a flattened,
Well, we get stretched out.
Stretched out a lot. Forget flat earth. That's nothing, right? It's still not what they're showing. It's still not what they're telling. It's questionable. That's stuff we should know by then, right? So But time is linear, space and time. There's so many different things. It means more than that. It's not just, it's like a non-rotation and things like that. You get into the whole complex thing. But the point I'm trying to get at is I'm no longer fighting to prove that point. I know. And when I know and I'm confident of the way things are, I was stuck with two things. I either just let it go and be like, okay, I got the answers. I know this world fucking sucks and there's nothing we can do about it. Maybe we're stuck in a snow globe. We can't go anywhere. When we die, nothing happens. This is reality. That learning those things as being possible after doing the research and talking to these communities made me depressed, made me upset, made me angry, because I can see the possibility. And when you compare that to the way that the world is running these days, a lot of things make sense. So how do you change that? Well, you can either just live your life and be peaceful and stick away, or you put yourself back into the fight and try to make a difference. And instead of pushing for disclosure, I am assisting with the confirmation by verifying the information that needs to come out while helping other experiencers deal with the stuff that that they need to deal with and process.
Well, one thing, let me talk about this too, because like I said, it can be, a lot of this coming at people a lot of once if they're new to this topic or they've always had the interest, and you'd be surprised, like when I turn my YouTube on, all I see is UFO, this, ghost, this. And to me, I see UFO topic in the news. I see it constantly. It's in my face constantly. So in my world, I'm stepping outside thinking this is top news. This is top of the bill right here. This is what everybody's talking about. No, it's not. Only people in the community are really aware of how hot UFO, topic is right now, especially here in the States. This is the only time in American history to where UFOs has actually been talked about and considered a serious topic. For the first time, we finally have people looking at this, like Tim Burchett here in my home state of Tennessee has really tackled the issue, and Congressperson Luna, I think from Florida, state of Florida, they've really tackled the issue to try to get some answers here. Okay, that's never happened, ever been this serious. So people who are new to this topic a lot of them aren't even aware of that, because the mainstream media still doesn't play this. They still don't advertise it. You do have to go to some of the alternative, I don't know what in the hell you want to call it, some type of alternative news groups that are on YouTube right now, which thank God for, that we have those. Because they actually, give news that's really interesting that people really want to hear. But here's my point.
Yeah.
Is people who are watching this episode, or you come back and listen to the episode, Ryan has a lot. There's a lot of info coming at you, a lot of stuff in it. Some of it may sound weird as hell, but I promise you it's real. He knows what the hell he's talking about.
Sometimes.
He's not a crackpot. He's an educated private investigator. He's been doing this a long time, and he really breaks things down. And if it comes out of your mouth, brother, it's gospel to me.
I appreciate that, and to be honest, I'm a little more free than I have been. I've been reserved because I've been worried about how it would affect business and all these other things, and the more that I've accepted the way that things are and become more confident in myself and things, it's been a little bit easier. But I've been doing this a long time, and I might believe some of these things a little bit too much, but I do still need to be dialed down, which is why I focus on the facts. And I do, you're right, I do have research on the Experiencer Support Association. There's tons and plethora of all of the declassified documents that I've collected, released, my investigations and stuff from the past. I'm going to be building on that. And of course, there's other people contributing to that. And that's where I draw from. This is a podcast. I haven't done it in a long time. This is my home turf. I feel comfortable, so I'm a little bit relaxed. But the narrative, let's go back to what you were saying here. Yes, it's good that it's being talked about in mainstream media, because it is a thing that stuff has happened, stuff were viewed, things were covered up, and then they didn't talk about it, but they're still seeing these things. But because of the stuff that's happening, that's being covered up, is that the same stuff as what everybody else is experiencing, or is it separate? Because, and the other part of this the thing that I have issue with is that the information that was reported was not completely accurate. There's information that I helped bring forward that has come public, that a lot of people that are better than me, that are more, running with that story, and doing a lot of good work with it. That shows that Elizondo, falsified information. He's part of a group that doesn't actually exist. And then there's supporting documents and things like that too. And then he claims he's been gaslighted. Grush is the same thing. Grush has been groomed by Elizondo. The reason why you see him in the news and not Elizondo anymore is because it's part of the same stuff. There's a lot of misinformation that's being spread around, but it's getting the topic to Congress. Congress is doing something with it, and it's being taken serious. So on one hand, that is a good thing. But if you see the way that it's going and you see the evidence and the information to realize the stuff that they're talking about has no factual basis, no evidence, and the people they're asking for could cover it up because who knows? Like, look at the Epstein list, for an example. How much of that was redacted? They can sit down and redact a bunch of this stuff and, hey, give you what you wanted, but, you can't control what we redact. So do you think they're actually going to tell us that UFOs and aliens exist? No, because that means a whole lot of everything actually exists. So if you look at the way that things are being talked about, what's happening is a setup, or at least leading to some way to control that, so that way information isn't leaked again.
See, okay, well, let me ask you this, because, I've been following the David Grush story, with him testifying Congress, the whole thing. And David seems to be backed by Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, and see. But right now, see, these are kind of like our poster childs for this movement right now. At least, where I'm at now, and what they are bringing the topic to issue. But here's the problem, though. I need to try to figure out. So you're not a fan of David Grush. You think David Grush is representing something completely false?
I am a fan of everybody who puts the effort in. I just look at it from an evidence point of view. Grush has provided a statement like everybody else has, with no evidence like everybody else has. He is no different than anybody else who has a military background talking about information about things that they heard third party from other people. He's not an eyewitness to any of this. Or I can't say any. I haven't been following it for the last couple of days, so there could be information out there that I haven't seen yet. But
do you believe him, Ryan? Do you believe? Because
I believe that he believes what he was told, but that's the problem. Is he was told by other people. He wasn't witness to it.
Why would this is, I've tried to think this way too. I'm thinking, well, if he was, say he was lied to,
yeah,
why would they want to put this lie out? Now, granted, I do know the loophole that David has with testifying in Congress. David has a loophole that he can testify in Congress as long as he doesn't lie. Well, as long as he's saying this is what I was told, and he can prove this is what he was told.
He is telling the truth of what he was told.
He was told. He's not lying.
Who told him?
There's no consequences. There's no consequences in his situation, and I totally see that.
Which is dangerous when that connection is that we have evidence that shows that Elizondo was grooming him. He was the next one to take.
What would Elizondo's? But what would be his incentive to? Because is Elizondo trying to sell books? Is he trying to make money?
Well, he is actively writing a book, and I'm sure he'll make money off of it, and he'll have nothing in it, just like the Skinwalker book that George Knapp put out in Stratton, a nothing burger. It's part of marketing. It's marketing 101. They're taking advantage of it. But here's the thing: it's just I can't say what they have experienced doesn't exist, because we do know that the government has secret departments. The government withholds information. We do know all of these things are possible. But when the people are fighting to get this information and the public are getting worked up and doing all these other things and getting hopeful, what they seem to forget is that the government has the choice to release the information. They also have the choice to hold it back. And yes, there's laws that say they have to release it. But if I ask for information about a UFO program and it exists, I have to prove it exists for them to give me the information. Because if there's no proof that it exists, they don't have to show anything. Or if I miss something, they will not give me that information unless I ask for it. So they can selectively withhold information and redact it for privacy reasons. So they will never give the full hand because it'll affect the entire world. If UFOs do exist from extraterrestrials, other places, and they agree, and that becomes a world problem. That is a world threat.
That is a world problem.
If Grush is aware of this, Elizondo, whoever your Messiah is telling the truth that the government is covering up something and they just want to stick it to them to get that exposed, they could be doing it for many reasons. They could be doing it because they got a raw severance package when they left the army or their service. They could be sticking it to their boss because it's their boss. Essentially, is who they're hammering.
Let me ask you this. Okay, let's say you want to, and this has been a technique of the CIA for people for years. They would go to other countries and they would start a coup somehow. They would plant something in the country to uprise. Do you think this is a possibility? Somebody intentionally from the government told Grush these things
intentionally.
Intentionally for him, that knowing that he would do what he did, and
he is a victim. He is a victim.
Then in that case, he is a victim. But here's the thing, though. What would be their incentive to do so? Is it to actually slowly release the information out to the world slowly? Because there's going to be, instead of throwing everything at once on us,
cannot, unless they have preparation to deal with a mass panic, they will not release that information. I have no doubt in my mind that we are capable to receive that information. Look how we handled the pandemic. The first thing we did is hoarded our freaking toilet paper. We are not smart enough to handle a global crisis on a whole. So that could have been a testing ground for things like that. But why would they do that? Well, we're speculating because we don't know. It's still possible that they're telling the truth, which is what makes it scary for the experiencers, because they're sitting there with a weird experience. They don't know how it happened. Is it real? Is it not real? And they validated that it could not be real. But if it is real, holy shit, these things actually happen. So it's creating a hysteria already. So by the government agreeing to it, everyone's going to go into a panic. If they close it, some people will get mad about it, but we're 2% of the entire population, because a lot of people don't even know this stuff is happening. So the government's intent, if the government is giving false information to Grush to tell a convincing story because he believes it to be true, because the reputation of the people that tell him it is to do exactly what it's doing, is confuse the hell out of everybody. And if the government programs, now that the government programs are taking it serious because they have to, enough flags have been raised, enough bells have been rung, they have to respond. So now that they're responding, they have to do something, and they're either going to allow it or they're going to change things so that way the way that this happened doesn't happen again. Information was leaked. Information was stolen. Information was declassified. There's different, or never classified. There's so many different things about it. But at the end of the day, private information about something was given to the public. If it's not extraterrestrial, well, it's definitely, it's still a crime in some sense for our secrecy amongst men and women, humanity. So if the end game is about space, conquering that. So if this narrative is there and the United States is taking the lead on that, and okay, all they have to do is be like, you know what, we need more research. This is what we're doing. They've already canceled out 80 years of UFO knowledge already, saying we need to start from scratch, which pisses some people off, but that's good from an investigative tactic. Now they're looking into it. Then they look into it. There's nothing here, right?
Okay. I tell you what, Ryan, let's do this. Hey, we'll come right back, man. We got a commercial break we got to get to. Let's get to our commercial break, and we'll come right back. Guys, hang around. This is an interesting conversation with UFO investigator Ryan Stacey here on Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today.
Business. It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
All right, for you guys, we're back here. We've got UFO investigator Ryan Stacey here, the founder of Tessa. We've had some exciting information he's been talking about so far, kind of breaking things down about the paranormal investigating experience. But this is what I want to do, Ryan. I want to hear a story, okay? And I'm sure some of the listeners do too. And the viewers want to hear a story now. And you've heard a lot, dude. You have seen a lot. I can't even imagine the things that you've heard. Now, can you tell us something? You got an interesting story. Maybe it was an experience of your own. Maybe something that you're able to share. Maybe not drop a name. But was there ever an investigation, something that just really hit you hard, that just blew your mind?
Well, it depends on where you want to go. So, like, it ties into what we were talking about before the break. And if the government is doing what it's doing intentionally, is doing a good job to create an atmosphere so people will fund a PSYOP or fund some sort of weapons in a territory that has not been conquered yet. And just as much as those weapons are said to be pointed outwards, they very well can be pointed directly at us. And there's a lot of stuff like that. So, like, that is the biggest story, which adds to my that cripples my mental health when I can see that happening. I can see all the things that people are saying. I can see the reactions of people buying into this stuff. Now, they could be very well telling the truth. And I'm speculating based on my opinions of what I've observed because of the lack of information that's coming. That is the biggest investigation, is understanding the people that are involved. So I don't actually study the phenomena. I'm a private investigator, which I'm also a private UFO and paranormal investigator, which means I don't share to the rest of the world because it's between me and the experiencer, because it's a personal experience and it's to help me understand the global stuff of that, to figure out how it's all connected. So the biggest investigation that I've ever done is studying all these individuals that have depression, that have anxiety, that are been gaslighted, that have that are worried that their own mental illnesses are going to make them uncredible. The worry that if they had a sip of alcohol that night that they saw their experience, that's going to make them not credible. There's so many nuances in there that prevents people from just being open about, hey, I saw some weird shit. I don't know what it is. It could be that, but it really affects their life. The darkest experience that I've ever had, which kind of put me in the support role that I'm trying to get into. And by trying is I need to step away from the disclosure stuff because I know it's not going anywhere, and focus back onto the people as I originally intended, because we have work to do. We have things that we need to do. But where the other hat comes in place with the investigative side of things is there's crime and there's abuse. And I don't think experiences are to be laughed at. I don't think that
it's be taken seriously. Absolutely, 100%.
A lot of people are making money off of it, and you can make money from it. Some of it is honest, some of it is not. That's business 101. But the experiencer, who's choosing to put money in on the table, do all those other things, should get a return on their investment based on what exactly it is that is advertised. MUFON is a great example. You don't get what is advertised with what you're putting out there. But the darkest investigation, I would say, is not paranormal. It's not UFO. It's the truth. And the truth, I would say it's majority. I've used hypnosis as a tool, much like a lie detector test. You would use that as a tool. It may not be admissible in court, or it is admissible in court and not accepted. But they use that to link other things in place. Hypnosis is kind of like that in that sense, where we try to draw some information out. I have had numerous experiences where they believe to have been abducted by extraterrestrials and sexually molested. That type of experience is terrifying. To know that it's an extraterrestrial out there that is doing these horrible things elevates that stuff. But when you dig into it, you ask the right questions and you work with them privately and you're not trying to profit from it, you're not writing a book about it, you're not trying to get on TV about it, you're genuinely trying to show concern for these people, you start to realize that there's some normal things. You put them into hypnosis believing that, hey, this is an extraterrestrial. Describe to me this extraterrestrial or this being that you saw without any leading things. You don't say extraterrestrials. You don't lead into that. What did you see? Next, you know, they're describing a family member that's standing in the same freaking room. Then you have to deal with a confession of many years of rape, which is
awkward,
which is a real thing.
He's not dressed like an alien, though. That would
then
be
you have the trauma, the years and years and years and years of this person leaving and believing that it was extraterrestrial because that idea is out there. And the paranormal is just as fucked. You know, you got what's this Johnny Bravo guy there from Ghost Adventures, Zach Bagans. That's it. Yeah. Sorry. You know, the entertainment value was needed, but now they're taking advantage of the people. And so I'm not finding anything I can't explain. However, I'm still speculating. I'm still assuming that it's this based on other things and not being able to rule out these possibilities. That's where the skepticism comes in.
Now let me do this. Okay. Yeah. Let me. So whenever because I think the hypnosis thing is a very interesting technique. I think it reveals a lot of stuff, you know, subconsciously that we don't even know. So I am a fan of that technique. So you've done this with people and you've heard similar experiences, what people, you know, similar things happening to people, correct? I mean, outside of like, you know, I mean, did they, other than explaining, you know, Uncle Louie, you know, standing there in the corner while they're being under hypnosis, but have any of them gave like the grays, the alien grays and stuff like this? And
I've had experiences where they do describe foreign objects, if you will, like being on the crafts. I find that interesting. They don't appear to have any background in engineering. They don't appear to have any knowledge in how space machines or spacecrafts work, but yet they have these experiences where they're able to describe aerodynamics and certain mechanics of technology that I wasn't aware of until I did research to validate if this is possible, if this is a thing. You know, is there technology out there that does these weird things? Can you touch things with your hands and operate consciousness? You know, so all these things are possible. Just because it's possible, is it probable? You know, what is more likely and things like that. But if you give belief into that and you add the context that it's happening in their mind, doesn't mean it's make believe. It just means they're in another space and time experiencing this stuff. You know, you get some interesting stuff. You get some crafts that are maybe the size of a bus in the three-dimensional world. You go inside of it, and next you know, it's like 5 football fields big inside. You know, how does that work? You know, and then you get you have beings that teach you, they school you, they teach you information about codes and things like that. And that stuff is fascinating. That stuff is interesting.
So those have been similar stories, though, that you've been told and you've heard through these investigations.
Yes, and what makes it compelling, though, the way I do my investigations, it's not just watching a trend and seeing a whole bunch of things on repeat that, you know, to make this correlation or causation from correlation. It's, I know as the investigator that I've screened each and every one of these people separately, asked them the same questions that aren't leading, and then ask them to provide evidence. And when they don't have evidence, I get them to draw. And they draw things that look the same. They may call them differently. You know, one might call it shadow figure. One might call it an extraterrestrial. One might call it the Hat Man. Those are titles. But if you listen to those titles, you think 3 different things. But if you look at the